coming back from the higher states of consciousness is the opportunity to integrate more, opportunity to ground those higher energies, the higher light. People usually want to go up, and then after staying in the higher states, in bliss, higher love, the higher light, people ask why it comes and goes and why one cannot stay too long in those higher states. It's because there is a gap in between. And to assist in integration, that's where coming back from meditation is equally important as going up or deep into meditation. This is usually overlooked by all meditators, as people usually don't want to come back from meditation, or they come back quickly and then expect that the higher light will stay. Various ways we can attune to that higher spirit. And as you know, we do a lot of meditations with the light in its various refined intensities and the higher forms of light. So we go up in this way. And also we use sound, which is the mantras, to attune. And we use the life stream, which comes through the column of light as a river of light, and we go upstream. So actually we use all the key aspects to not only travel up to the source, but also more and more, as I'm explaining today, revealing how we can integrate the spirit itself. So what happens as you come back from meditation? In a very simple way, you can simply start coming back, but you're not retaining much of that which you have experienced. You say, oh, it was a wonderful experience, and now I'm ready to come back. So you're not retaining much of that experience. Some people try to cling on experience. I don't want to let it go. I want to stay there. I don't want to come back. That doesn't work well either. And what works well is that, as we did last meeting, as we were coming back, we were consciously returning. And there were already questions like why we are consciously going back or down. So I answered that already. And that is already a key step in retaining more of the higher spirit, the presence of God. And today, I'm simply bringing forward that the way to retain even more of these divine gifts, the presence of God, the presence of this higher light or consciousness, is to use a mantra of the spirit as we are returning from meditation, to use another mantra. One mantra we use to go up, to attune to this higher light. We're using like a password or a master key, the dialing code to go up. And then when we come back, we use another mantra to bring that spirit of the source with us back, and to integrate and ground here and now. So what people usually experience as we do that, even as you're coming back consciously, step by step, returning, with additionally using the mantra of the spirit, you're holding that light, higher light, and you're bringing it back here, but in an integrative way. So you're grounding it, you're bringing it here. And what happens is that as we fully come back into the body, and as we continue doing the mantra of the spirit, we can still feel the presence of this higher light, the presence of the source. So we use the mantra and we still feel the presence of the source. And even though you're back in the body, your attention is not there anymore. You have returned your attention back into the body. And even while sitting in the body, by using this mantra of the spirit, you may still feel the complete divine presence, the presence of the self. And that's how we bridge all those gaps. So you attune going up and you attune the integratively going down. And ultimately what happens is as you keep going, we could say in a yogic way, you go into the samadhi, and as you come back from samadhi, you bring some of it back with you. Samadhi is bliss. So you bring that absorption of this light back with you. And as time goes by, as you keep going up, exploring the highest light, the highest consciousness, and as you keep consciously coming back, you're retaining more and more conscious awareness and attunement and integration into that highest state. So what happens is that you are familiarizing more and more yourself with the highest state, and by using the spirit of the source, but to ground it here, you are transforming everything in the middle. And at the same time, your bottom also integrates and thus shifts higher, or in other words, closer to the self, to consciousness. So you are bridging the gap. You're reducing the distance, not by only going up, but also by going back. So this is a lot more powerful than only going up and trying to cling onto it, which doesn't work so well. What also happens usually when people meditate, they go up and then they stay in those higher planes. And since they're not coming back in a grounded way, they experience various side effects. For example, being extremely ungrounded, extremely unsettled, or the nervous system starts to struggle, it starts to get agitated. It starts to say, I can't handle these super high energies. It's too much. And because one part of you is there and the other part of you is here, and you're not bridging this gap. So you're creating various disbalances. Disbalances of ungroundedness, disbalances of displacement, disbalances of attachments, clinging, or then longing, and so on and so on. So essentially, various disbalances may occur if you are not grounding yourself, if you're not balancing yourself as you're returning from meditation. Now, of course, these would be no issues if we would just meditate on inner peace, on the simple things. If we just meditate on quietness of the mind and inner peace, then whatever, don't worry about these things. But if we meditate on the highest states of consciousness, divine, the source itself, and you know that the intensity, the samadhi states are so many and the intensities are so many. So this is a very high voltage. And therefore, what you can do or you can ignore in the beginner meditations, in the simple things, you can't do the same things anymore when you work on a very high voltage. Yes? Now, the benefits are obvious of integration. And many times when we have retreats or physical meetings and so on, people would witness me that in the satsang, we do a consciousness transmission, everybody's blissed out. And as the satsang finishes, everybody's still there. And I come out and the next moment, I am totally grounded, totally here now. And then some people have referred, wow, how can you do this? One moment it's like total bliss, and another moment like nothing happened, talking about the regular things or practical matters. That is a sign of integration, that you can easily go up, experience the biggest bliss, and then you easily come back and everything is totally perfect, totally fine. So this is a very big sign of integration. And at the same time, it is here, it is present, it is retained. And this brings a very big balance to your lower vehicles of consciousness, your physical body, your emotional body, your mental body, astral body, and etheric body, and so on. They also balance all together via grounding the spirit. Because as you go up, you might want to skip the blockages of your emotional body. You want to skip this and that, and you just want to go up quickly and easily. But then you ignore and you skip through and you don't balance those lower vehicles of consciousness. But in this way, as we come back with the spirit itself of divine, we are balancing all the vehicles of consciousness as we come back, as we return from this super high meditation.
My question is, why do we go up and then down? Why don't we stay and pull these energies down simply?
Your questions are pointing to ask, why wouldn't it be simpler in essence? Why wouldn't it be easier and simpler? That's where the first and second question point to. If everything would be so easy and simple, we would all be enlightened and self-realized. However, as we may understand, it is an individual journey that all of you undertake. It is a journey of self-responsibility, of fully owning what you have, the goods, the bads, and in between. And from my offering or my service, I bring various approaches. It is not simple at all to go up and stay there, because it is simple in a way that you can go there easily. But what is not simple is what one holds, what one is not willing to give up. In other words, what one is familiar with, such as certain thought patterns, certain beliefs, certain perceptions. So the source itself, divine, is very simple in actuality, but the complexity is what you hold, what you assume to be real, or what you are very familiar with and you have a habit and you don't want to let it go, or you don't know how to do that. That's where the complications are. The light of the source is extremely simple, nothing complicated about it. It's always present, always here, it's just shining. But the veils The veiling part, the fixed identities, the fixed perceptions, is where complications arise. The same way, like it is easy to feel healthy because your body naturally is trying to be healthy, but it is difficult when diseases come. Then everything is out of order, then there's pain and suffering and all that stuff. And then it's difficult to be healthy because the disbalance is present. So if you are young and so on, it's easy to be healthy, but then as you grow older, then it's more and more difficult because more and more disbalance accumulates in the physical sense. So if one has spent 20, 30 years of being stuck in the mind or emotional hurt and pain, the complications are to heal all of that, to disidentify from all of that. This is where complications arise. The light of awareness is very easy, not complicated. Now, another one may say, okay, if that is easy part and this is complicated part, but why do I not experience the divine love and bliss and so on? Because one is so much accustomed to that which is lower that one is absolutely ignoring the subtleness of this light of awareness, light of the source, totally skipping it, totally ignoring it, and hasn't given any value to it over the last decades. And thus, one made for oneself more real, which is of more gross nature. Yes, the light divine is present, but totally ignored and overlooked. And that's why it's not experienced. But it doesn't mean that it's not here. It is here. But the experience is that you always experience that with which you are familiar with. One of the other important aspects to this whole topic is the attunement to the higher light is necessary, because if you as a soul have lived thousands of years in the veiled reality, whether physical or subtle, then in a higher sense, this higher light is forgotten, and it's so far away that it's been forgotten very much. So thus, the assistance of a guide or teacher or guru is necessary to reattune one to that higher consciousness, to reattune one to the higher divine light. And when one reattunes to that, they realize that, oh, it's always here. But it was so much forgotten that it never entered my experience. A role of a teacher, guide, or guru is to also reattune one, because by one's own effort, one may not get there in most cases, because it's so much far away, so much unfamiliar. The teacher, what one does is reattunes and brings it back and says, remember, that's who you are in your essence. That is what is within your essence itself. That is the light of the self. So all of it together is, I see it as a simple process, but the complications are mental, emotional, identity fixations, and the habits, the lower familiarities. That's where complications are. And it does get simpler as actually one passes through certain steps and stages. Once we get to non-dual state or awareness state, then suddenly everyone realizes how much simpler everything becomes. And then I say, yes, it's going to get even more simple than that, even more fundamental than that, even more easy in a way than that. And below non-dual state, in the presence and the dualities, that's where it's tough and rough and not easy at all. But above the presence, non-duality, and beyond, that's the easy part and the nicest part, the easiest part, the most joyful, blissful part. So a bit of hard work is needed to get through those dualities, to enjoy all the fruits and love and bliss divine.